Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, evening war report time. Lebanon, Hezbollah in Lebanon shot 20 missiles into Israel right near the border today. And that's sort of an escalation, but not a severe one. Israel will probably respond within 1 or 2 days or something. They'll plan it out. Israel offered a $400,000 reward for turning in the head of Hezbollah, who's running around somewhere, probably in South Gaza. They're taking measures as best as they can to make sure the guy doesn't leave Gaza. 400,000 is a fortune in Gaza. I mean, that's a huge amount of money. The fighting is still going on in Gaza. The rockets are greatly diminished. I heard talk of Hamas saying they'll be willing to recognize Israel as a nation, probably in return for a ceasefire, and that's not going to work. Yeah, they'll recognize Israel as a nation today, and next week they'll say, no, we can't do it. We're going to retract it. No, Netanyahu's not going to be that stupid. Make them look bad. I don't know much about the flooding of the tunnels, how far it's progressed, or if it's really begun much at all. I don't know. They're not talking. Lots of fighting in Gaza and inside Israel in the West Bank. As I've told you in the past, basically it's a revolution. And they've been fighting now, I think, 3 days in Jenin, which is in the West Bank. They've used drones, they bomb, they shoot, everything. I mean, it's really bad. Brown University, some pro-Hamas demonstrators have occupied a building. It's like 1966, 67, or 68 even, the Vietnam War protests, which I remember. They did that a lot. It doesn't do any good. I mean, it disrupts the university. It doesn't, interfere with the country. I don't know, but it's something they can do. It's usually pretty safe for them to do it. It normally ends with tear gassing the building, and then they got to clean the building out to get the smell out, Once in Washington, D.C., I was in a government building, and it was right after they had protests, and they had people occupy it, and it was an IRS building, and or a Treasury building, and the place stank of tear gas, but it was just enough to irritate your nose and your eyes a little bit, not very bad. They just approved the new budget to increase monies for the war effort. Biden's advisor, Jake Sullivan, visited Saudi and then visited Israel and said that Israel is taking very strong measures to avoid harming civilians. He even went as far as to say more than we would do. So he's him and Biden, I guess, are giving Israel a clean bill of health on that count. Gallant, the Minister of Defense, is saying that the war is going to take several months. I told you a long time ago when they started prosecuting Netanyahu for 3 counts of corruption that he would throw Israel into a war because he couldn't get anywhere with judicial reform to strip the power from the courts, so he couldn't be prosecuted. He couldn't get it. And I said he would do that, and I said if he can't keep the war going, he would, if he could, see Israel destroyed. That's not going to happen, but he would go that far to stay out of jail. He's, 72, 74 or something like that. He could have a maximum of 16 years in jail. That guy ain't going to do that. He's too much impressed with himself. That's not going to happen. Okay, there's a story floating around. I may as well drop it on you in case you hear it from somebody else. I do not believe this to be a true story as it is told. Okay? tunnel unit in Gaza several days ago is going into a tunnel. In Israel, the officers go in first. So they don't know what to expect in the tunnel. They expect a firefight. So they leave 4 or 5 guys at the entrance of the tunnel to make sure, Hamas doesn't run in behind them and get them blocked in and then throw explosives and, whatever. So in Israel, the officers go first. Now, what that does is save lives because the officers aren't idiots and they're not going to go walk into in a suicide mission or something like that. There's no such thing as an Israeli jihadist that's Jewish. It does, or a believer. It doesn't exist in Israel, right? So the officer and a few guys are in the tunnel. They progress into the tunnel and radio communications apparently are down. So another bunch of guys, maybe at this point it might be 15 or 12 or 18 or someplace around there, they decide to go in to protect the officer and the other guys. So they start going in and they see a guy in the tunnel standing there in their path dressed like a rabbi, the black coats and all that crap, right? Maybe not ultra-Orthodox, maybe just dressed like a rabbi. Now, if they called him, now the soldiers referred to him as a rabbi, so he would have been dressed in all the regalia. So they say to the guy, what are you doing here? And the guy gives him no explanation, just says, don't go in there, you're going to get killed. And what he said, there's going to be a lot of widows and orphans if you go in there. And they talked to him briefly, and then they said, look, Rabbi, I don't know what you're doing here, but we got to go in. We got to protect our officer. So they go to push him gently out of the way, pull him, he says, I'm sorry, but I got to remove you out of the way. And then he says his hands pass through the guy like he has no substance. Now, this is a story a rabbi is telling, and he's saying he gets it from a reliable source. But he's a rabbi. He's not a reliable source. They're cut from the same cloth as the pastors think Esbat. Okay? So hands go through the guy, and they don't know what to do, and then they push forward, and they wind up walking through the rabbi. Now, then the next thing we know is the rabbi is still telling him not to go in, and while he's talking to him, they say fire is coming. They see flames in his mouth, not that he's projecting fire. And then while they're negotiating with the rabbi, the officer and the other guys come back, and they're with the soldiers, and they exit the place, and shortly after they exit, the place gets blown up. So this guy what is this guy doing? Is this really one of the 2 witnesses? Forget that. A witness dressed like a rabbi, giving credence and credibility to the rabbis who teach the people not to mention the name, God's name. They, instead of saying Jehovah, they say Hashem. And their books, their holy books as they refer to them, the Talmud, clearly says that Yeshua was not a prophet, never rose from the dead, and was not the Son of God, and they also refer to him as a bastard. Now, people that propose this doctrine, God's going to, it's ridiculous. This guy is not one of the witnesses, and he's not an angel. Okay? This guy's clever, is all he is, and he's trying to build credence up for the rabbis who hate Yeshua and are opposed to Jehovah. They teach the Kabbalah, which is witchcraft. So come on, guys. If you hear this story, don't give it any credence at all. It's just somebody making stories up to give credibility to the rabbis, okay? This is not one of the 2 witnesses, all right? All right. So this rabbi passes off a lot of stories of miracles and things like that to promote his faith, talking about how holy they are. They pray. Yeah, they read out of the book of Psalms. That's how they teach them to pray. They don't pray like believers. They read Psalms, and they're taught that this is a prayer. You understand how ridiculous this is? It's absolutely not a prayer, reading Psalms. Okay? Not a chance. So if you pick up this story, just disregard it. It's nonsense. It may start circulating more and more through the internet, but it's just sheer nonsense, okay? If one is, why didn't the witness destroy the enemies? You know, see what I'm saying? It's nonsense. All right. What else is going on? That's about it. My wife's back. She's got some kind of jet lag, I guess. So please pray for her. She doesn't feel like she's herself. So please pray for my wife, Rivka, for healing and to feel like she's herself, okay? My wife, Rivka, please pray for her for healing and to feel like she's herself, okay? It may be more than jet lag, I don't know. But if you pray for her, I'm quite sure she'll be okay. And what else? That's about it. The zoo here is all in good shape. Thank you for praying for the animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. Please keep the prayers going for my hernia. Something's going on. I have no intentions of getting it operated on. It's not that serious. And I'm certainly not going to go have myself cut open. And, those surgeries often have bad endings, those hernia surgeries. So, what else? Please keep praying for my system to get more regular, like food track exiting, appreciate that. It's coming around, but a little more prayer would be nice. And I'll keep you updated as to what's going on. There's so much going on. We'll just, keep you going. The morning broadcasts really have more of the details than I do in the evening. And there's not a lot of news tonight. One thing that happened that was kind of cute is I guess it was the artillery guys from the IDF shot flares into the sky. And these are things that glow and light up the ground, and a lot of times they have a little toy parachute on them like thing, so they stay up in the sky longer. So they managed to lay it out in a pretty good display of a Hanukkah menorah, which would be 7 candles today, plus the Shemesh, the main candle. So they had the main candle on top of the 7, which weren't in an exactly straight line, but they were. It was pretty interesting. It was cute. It's a real morale buster for Hamas to see that. Okay. A real morale buster. Some guys took over a mosque, I think in Jenin, IDF, and they started putting out, I think it was Hanukkah songs or something like that, on the mosque public address system. And they're talking about taking disciplinary action against them, which I don't think they should do. For crying out loud, this is a war. And they didn't hurt anybody. It's ridiculous. But that's Netanyahu. And he's obviously dragging out the war. But I don't see why this would take several more months at all. I'm not able to understand that. Okay. Hamas is still confiscating humanitarian aid, water and food and medical. Nothing's being done about it. The Red Cross isn't visiting any hostages. They're saying, well, we can't push our way in, blah, 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 blah. The UN is worthless. Believe me, they can't do anything anymore. It's dead. That's their one world order, and it's pretty much dead. It's divided. And a house divided unto itself can't stand. And it's probably going to fall apart. Probably when America's gone, it'll fall apart. I don't think it's going to revive without America. China and Russia and Iran and North Korea and all these characters don't want to see the UN around anymore. And of course, Jeremiah 30 verse 11 will put an end to the UN for sure. It's an enemy of Israel, period. That's why it's not going to last. Okay. So, thinking. That's about what I got. Thank you for the prayers. Thank you for the offerings. And I send my shalom to those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.